Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Mike Rady, Get Seen, Get Sold from the Get Seen, Get Sold team. How are you? We're in the middle of recording a podcast and a YouTube video for Radon Mitigation Week. It's actually Radon Mitigation Month, but this week we've selected it as Radon Mitigation Week. So the Get Seen, Get Sold team has put together a 5-part blog series on radon, and we figured what a better way to get our point across and help people out by bringing in an expert like Mr. Tony Gonzalez. Tony's with RVS Radon Mitigation, and he is the go-to guy. I don't know much about it other than if it comes up with a test and it fails, then I just call a guy like Tony. Tony, how are you doing this evening?
Good, doing well, thank you. Yeah, how about yourself?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. I really appreciate you taking this extra time out in your day because I know you're pretty busy, and I know when us as realtors get busy, you get busy because our businesses go hand in hand. So it's definitely a pleasure to have you, folks. Make sure you go over to Tony's website over at RVS Radon because he's got an interview he did on Fox 29. He's a celebrity here. So it kind of trumps me, but it's all good. Tony, so why don't you start? Let's go right into telling folks what is radon.
Yeah, good question. So radon is a gas that enters into a home and eventually it causes lung cancer. So that's the short of it. Let me know if you want me to get into the geeked out details.
Well, I think that we know. So it's a gas. But where does it come from? Does it just like come out of nowhere? Do I bring it home from work, or how do we get radon?
So it's there is uranium underneath our houses, actually as far down as in the bedrock that's decaying. And as this uranium decays, I don't know if how much any of us remember the periodic table, but you'll see that it goes from uranium, it'll continue to change elements, and it'll become radon. That's Rn222. So this uranium that's decaying and becoming radon, it sucked into the house, I'd like to explain that in more detail at some point during this interview.
Yeah, absolutely. We can
But yeah,
definitely
it
get
comes from
into
the
that.
uranium in the soil.
I'm sorry, you said what?
It comes from the uranium in the soil.
Okay,
We
yeah.
we think that uranium is like something that's in Russia only, but it's not.
So all right, so it's just not Chernobyl. We have some of that over here too, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So actually, I did know a little bit about the uranium that we have because it does come up in well tests. So I know that you're closer to the city over in the Philadelphia area. Out in the suburbs where I sell a lot of houses, we have wells still, and where there is a uranium count that comes up, so we have to put in a special filtration system to filter it. And I'm imagining now with radon being a byproduct of uranium coming through, there would be some kind of a system that we have to put in. Is that correct?
Yes. Uranium, I'm sorry, radon, there is radon that can be found in water. So, actually, one way of knowing if you have radon in the water is if your radon levels are higher upstairs than they are downstairs. If it's coming from the soil, it's higher downstairs than it is upstairs. So it's pretty rare for radon to be in water, but it's definitely a thing.
Okay. Why should we care about radon? I mean, what's the implications of it, or the complications of it for us as people, and maybe even our pets?
Yeah, there are studies that are coming out more and more. Radon was discovered in the 90s that it accumulates into houses, so that's where the EPA got involved. But we're starting to learn that radon can actually enter into the bloodstream and cause illnesses through blood, and it could be a cause of dementia as well. So I think, it takes a while to have these studies, to understand these studies, and since radon has such a long-term exposure, but I think in the future, even 20 years from now, we're think people are going to take radon very seriously, much more than they are now. I know that when I go into a house that the levels are pretty high, I usually walk out with a headache. And I've had homeowners tell me the same thing, like, yeah, when I go into my basement, my head just hurts. So it's I think that there's a lot more to be discovered about radon, aside from it causing lung cancer and it being the second leading cause of lung cancer. There are other studies that are starting to come out. In terms of it being carcinogenic, it's the we know that if you're a smoker, then that's no good. Like smoking causes lung cancer. But if you have radon in your house, your chances of getting lung cancer are so much higher now. And radon then is the number one leading cause of lung cancer for non-smokers.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, I've received phone calls from people saying, my husband passed away of lung cancer and he never smoked, or just sad stories of people getting lung cancer, and that's how they discover that they have radon in their homes.
Yeah, that's it's actually pretty scary. Because it's like it's an invader in your house that you didn't invite there, and it's
Right.
as far as I know, it's odorless. You can't smell it, you can't see it, so you would never even know without getting some of the special testing done. But I'm glad that we have radon mitigation. We have ways to detect it now. Radon is such a very specific thing, though. What led you to be in the radon mitigation business?
Yeah, good question. I started off in construction since I was 15, and I was pretty into it. I did construction. I ended up doing construction project management at some point. I had some pretty neat opportunities. People invested in me. But construction is like it's an industry where you get paid or you don't get paid. And you remember when the that recession hit, when the bubble burst, the real estate bubble burst.
Yeah,
That was
2008.
com 2008. It was completely devastating for my family, and I had to jump out. At that point, I was 28 years old, and I was still, I guess, people were still willing to invest in me, and I was able to switch from construction to from blue collar work to white collar work, and I ended up doing human resources at a healthcare center. Eventually, at that healthcare center, there was a position that opened up for program management, and I filled in that position and did nonprofit program management, and specifically, it was tailored around preventative healthcare. So there were programs that were designed to help people to prevent from getting diabetes or high blood pressure and so on. So I already had that mentality of preventative healthcare, working in this healthcare center for 10 years. And my next job after that was I continued in program management, but it was for it was more construction related nonprofit organization that worked in homes, low income houses, and I would manage grants there. So it was pretty cool because at that point I remembered how much I enjoyed construction, how good I was at it, I guess, and I was like, I want to start a business. I want to try this out and see if I can do this. I have all this experience now, and construction is what I know, so let me give it a shot. I went to my friend who has a mold and asbestos business, and he recommended that I that I specialize in something. He recommended radon. So I started looking into it. I realized that there that even up to this day there isn't a single radon mitigation business in Philadelphia except for RVS Radon. So I knew
Okay.
that I had a niche market, and it took me a good 2 years of like I had to study it and eventually become certified. Oh my goodness, that certification is not easy to get. I was like, I have a master's degree. I know I can do this. This should be easy. It wasn't easy. I think the master's degree was easier.
Right.
So I got the certification eventually, and they don't make it easy. And that's how I got into it. And while we're talking about just some of the things that are unique and niche, I'm proud to say that I'm probably the first Hispanic in the state of Pennsylvania that has a radon certification, like
Okay.
an EPA, DEP certification. Um, so if I'm not the only one, then I was probably the first. And I tried looking around, like I tried to double check that. If there's another Hispanic out there that's certified, please talk to me in PA. But that's very relevant to me because I want to represent the Latinos well,
Okay.
and I want there to be more Latinos in this industry. So yeah,
Sure. No, that's
that's how
great.
I that's how I got into it.
All right, that's it's awesome. So it's a noble cause. With you've been very lucky with a couple of different careers, and you were able to tie it together to do something that you're good at. You're good at construction. You were enjoying healthcare, and now you get to prevent people from getting lung cancer as best you can, right? And you get to install these radon mitigation systems. I've seen them before, and I know how well, I should say how they look. I don't install them, so I don't know what's the process look like. My levels are high in my house, and I got to call RVS Radon Mitigation and have you guys come out, right? So Tony shows up at my house. Take me through it from the day you show up at my house to the day you make me close to radon free. What do we got going on there?
Right. So once I receive the call, I try and understand the situation as much as possible. How long did you live in the house? Are you moving out of your house? Are you staying there long term? I want to understand what kind of a customer I'm dealing with, where their mindsets are. Is it in their best interest? If they're selling the house, maybe they just want to reduce the levels, slightly under 4 just to be able to sell it. Are they trying to install a system that's going to reduce the levels as low as possible and for the system to last as long as possible? So at that point, the best thing is for me to go out and take a look at the property, and I'll come up with a system design with the homeowner, or the client. So the client is like, I don't care where you put the system. I just want to sell this house. I don't care if you put it in the front of the house. It doesn't matter. Give me the cheapest price. Or Tony, I really don't want the radon system in the front. I want it in the back. I want the pipes custom painted, and I want you to hide it as much as possible, even if it costs a little bit more. So I'll come up with a design, and after we have that, they get the estimate, and pretty fast at giving estimates. And then once they give me the green light, it usually takes about a week or 2 weeks, depending on the season, before I can get out to the house. But once I'm out there with my team, we'll install the system the same day. So usually it's like a 6 hour to 8 hour workday, depending on how complex the system is. After that, after the system's installed, we have to wait 48 hours to let the radon levels die out. Radon has a half-life of 3.8 days. So we want the radon in the air to die out for the system to have its fair chance. After that 2-day window, then we conduct the radon test. And that radon test could be a charcoal test, or somebody can come out as a third party, like just a whole nother business to come out and test so that there isn't a conflict of interest. And we go ahead and test it. That test can run somewhere between 2 to 4 days. And after that test has been conducted, then the homeowner will have the test results. So from the point in time that I get there to install the system to the point in time that they get the test results, it's going to be about 5 to 7 days,
Okay.
which is really important when you're working with real estate transactions to
Sure.
know
Yeah.
how long it takes. So the whole process from the point in time that you call RVS Radon to the point in time that it's done, it could take 2 weeks, it could take 4 weeks. So you want to give yourself time for
Yeah.
sure.
No, we definitely can appreciate it in real estate because we have a saying, and it's time is of the essence, and it's all about our contracts and how quick we get things done. And with the way real estate's been going the last couple of years, everything's been really quick, 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 quick. But and then I see stuff where people are skimping on home inspections and things like that. But I would have to say, after hearing some of the things you're telling me, I really think people have to be really cautious. You should never really skip out on a radon test. Um, Even if you do the bare minimum, is it possible to do your own type of test? If I'm, just a regular homeowner and I don't know about, RVS radon mitigation, can I do my own test somehow?
Yes. So there are a couple of ways that you could go about testing. We can provide you with a charcoal testing kit, RVS Radon can, or you can just pick one up at Home Depot or Lowe's, Amazon. Just get a little test, put it up, open it up, begin the test, close it, end the test, mail it out. really simple. And right there, you'll know what your levels are at that moment in those 48 hours. But you have to think that radon fluctuates. And I hope that I have the chance to explain how radon enters into a house and how it fluctuates. But radon fluctuates, and you don't know where you are on that curve. Are you at the top of the curve? Your levels are at 2 and you're up there and that's as high as it gets, or is 2 the very bottom of the curve and it's going to get higher? So, for example, uh, my house, my levels were at 2 over the summer, and then over the fall, they shot up to 15.
Oh,
I
wow.
also, yeah, and I had changed my basement windows, so I know that that contributed it because now my house was better, it was insulated better. So it was just really pulling that radon into the house as the house was trying to breathe.
Are you
Um,
are you just flexing that you bought good windows and you didn't buy shitty ones? Is that what's happening here?
yeah, I recommend the guy that installed them too. So so yeah, but that's a big deal though from 2 to 15. And
Sure.
let I know radon. I understand how it works. So I have like all these monitors, it's the business that I'm in. So I went ahead and I kept on testing my house knowing that if my levels were at 2, it's probably going to shoot up. And sure enough it did. Um, to go from 2 to 15 as an average so quickly, it means that my spikes were shooting up way higher than 30, probably 60. 4 picocuries per liter is like 8 cigarettes a day. Now
Wow.
imagine, you do the math on 15 or 30. My children are here, my wife is here, my pets are here. Like, I don't want anybody smoking cigarettes in my house or inhaling radon. So definitely it's recommended to test. It doesn't matter if your levels are low, just keep on testing. If you know that you have radon in your house and you have a radon system, the EPA recommends that you test every 2 years. There are like long-term tests that you can conduct so that you can get a year average. So it's recommended if you're living in your house, you're going to be there for a while, get a test that's like 91 days or more. Anything that's 2 days to 90 days is considered short term. 91 days or more is considered a long-term test. So you want to test through the different seasons so that you can see what's going on when your windows are open, when your windows are closed, when it's cold outside, and so on.
Yeah. So I'm thinking now when I'm hearing a lot of what you're saying. So for the people listening and watching, um, if I moved into my house 15 years ago and I had radon and I had a system in, is my system from 15 years ago, is it still good? Is it still, do I need to do anything else with it?
Right. You should definitely be checking your YouTube manometer. That's that plastic tube that has liquid in it. And if the lines are unequal, that's a good thing. That means that there's some kind of a negative suction pressure inside of your pipe. That means that the radon system is sucking, it's doing its job. If you see that the lines are even, then that's not good. It means that the radon system is not working properly. A radon system, based off of the phone calls that I get, people's radon systems die out somewhere between year 7 to year 14.
Okay.
Usually, I get a lot of phone calls. Usually, that's when they're dying within that window. So I would say if your system is around 10 years old, it's probably near the end of its life. And there are people that have radon systems that are 20 years and older, and they're still spinning. But when they try and sell their house, they see that their radon levels are still very high. Maybe they're at 8 or higher. Basically, the radon system is just spinning. It's not doing anything. There's no suction pressure. So that's why you have to test every 2 years. You can't just assume that the system is working. Um, so yes, I don't know if I went off at a different
No,
angle
I
with the
mean it
question.
does make sense, right? Because with everything and anything nowadays, right? Technology changes constantly, and things are constantly evolving. And I'm sure there's been a lot more studies done, and we have some long-term results on the effects of radon that we didn't have 30 years ago, and it's quite a bit. So I would imagine that a system installed 30 or even 20 years ago is probably nowhere near as efficient or maybe even installed to today's standards, that should be working. So it definitely makes sense to get that looked at. And
Well, could I?
is the radon service that's already in the house. Is that something that you and your team would come and inspect to check it out?
Absolutely, all the time. On that note, often enough, people, let's say someone sells the house and they have to install a radon system to sell it because the buyer is like saying, as part of the transaction, we want you to reduce the radon levels. So they install a system. Now, the buyer that's living in there, they're like, oh man, we have all of this water stuff that's happening. We have money from the previous sale of our house. Let's install a sump system. And they go ahead and they install a sump system with a French drain. So if your radon system was installed before your sump system was installed, there is a super high chance that your radon system is now compromised.
Okay,
So you want to, if you do any kind of construction in your house, even if you think that it's not relevant, still just have somebody go out and test the system. I mean, even a roofer, or if you're putting up siding or something like that, it can affect the radon system. Like, for example, I had electricians working in my house after I installed my radon system. You know, my levels were at 15, now they're at 0.5. And that same monitor device, I saw that the levels were creeping up past 6, and I was like, okay, what's going on with my radon system? I go downstairs and I see that it's off. It had been off for several days, actually a whole week, and the electricians had shut off the system as they were doing work in the house, and they never turned it back on. They forgot.
um,
So, so yeah, if I didn't have a radon testing device, I wouldn't have noticed it. Um, on a side note, it's good to have a radon alarm on your system so that if it stops working, the alarm goes off, and this way you know. Otherwise, we just don't know. We'll just start inhaling radon for who knows how long, assuming that the system is doing
sure.
its job.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of us think it's a one and done type of deal, and then clearly now with this excellent explanation that you're giving us, and this education, um, it's not, and it's probably one of the more detrimental things that can be in somebody's house. This is all good stuff, right? What I want to know is what sets your company apart from another company. What is it that RVS does that's so special that makes you the go-to guy? I mean, I'm already convinced that if I get radon in my house in Philly, I'm calling you. But what would people need to know about you?
I appreciate that. Well, we we want to do we want to be the best because we care. Like, we want to. I don't go into a house and say, "Hey, hire me to install your radon system. Transactions done, great. I did my job." No, it's like, hire me to reduce your radon levels as low as possible. If you just want to install a radon system and you want the cheapest contractor and you want the fastest or whatever, you want to be a number, then fine. I can recommend somebody that's going to give you the lowest price possible and it's not going to actually do a good job at all. I can recommend a couple of companies that way. But if you want a company that is going to care and install a system that's going to last a long time, then good. So I try as much as I can to go to the houses, to look at the customer eye to eye. And part of what I do, and I do this as my own personal practice, I look at the photos on the walls and I start asking them questions about their children, because I have to remind myself that I have to care for these people as individuals, not as a customer, but these are actual people living in a house with radon. And the way that I felt when I saw that my radon levels were high, when I felt it for myself for the first time, I was like, man, I'm sleeping and I'm thinking about it. Like, I want to come in and give everybody a peace of mind and know that this is going to work. And if it doesn't work, I have a 5-year warranty and I will come back out and take care of it. I'm not one of those contractors that's going to look for any excuse to raise the price. Like, oh, you called me back, it's going to be another $500. I don't do that. I go out, I take care of it. I want to be a good businessman, and the integrity that any leader has in an organization is going to be reflected with their employees. So because of that integrity, my employees have the same integrity. And if they don't have that integrity, then I don't want them working for me. They're gone. I want people that care just like I care for the customer.
That's great.
Customers, yeah, they know it, and because they know it, they call me back. They they recommend. Um, I have a lot to learn. I'm always constantly growing. but I think that that is also part of it. You know, it's like I want to remain humble, and I want to do a great job.
Yeah, like I was saying, that's great because it gives you the gives you the personal connection with people, right? It's just not a cold, customer face business and be done. And with radon being so important, and now knowing how dangerous it can be, it's nice to know that there's somebody that actually cares about the work they're doing and not just there at the end of the day to get that paycheck. So I was looking at the initials of the company, right? RVS. Is that like radon venting systems, or what's RVS stand for?
Good question. It's the mystery, the big mystery. I thought about giving discounts if anybody can figure it out,
Okay. Oh
but
well, the
no, no,
three
no. I'll tell
people
you.
that'll see this will know.
There you go. If they hire me, they're getting a discount. It stands for Rainbow, Violet, and Scarlet. Those are my three daughters, and they are business owners, along with my wife. We're all invested in it. We are a mom and pop. Um, I brought my daughter out with me, one of my daughters out with me to install a radon system. She did an awesome job. She actually was better than some of the employees that I've had there. She's
Well,
just amazing. That's a compliment to my daughter. Um, and I took another one of my daughters out to do estimates and replace a fan, and she was awesome, so professional, so cute with her hat on. But yeah, it's whenever I've thought about the name. Is it a name that makes sense? But it makes sense to me. And it's just so important to have that reminder of like, it's one thing to put your own name on something, but when you're putting your children's name on it, it kind of raises the bar. You know what I
sure.
mean? It's like,
Yep.
I don't want to
Absolutely.
blemish the names of my daughters. So I want to do a great job as a parent.
That's great. I mean, this is like some really great stuff. And again, Tony, I thank you for coming on, taking the time away from your family to sit down and have this chat with us. Can you let folks know how they can get a hold of you?
Yes, the best way of getting a hold is you can contact me at 267-269-5573. Just give a call or shoot a text to that number. It'll forward to my cell phone. Or you can reach me at tony@rvsradon.com, or just go to the website, rvsradon.com, and you can fill out a form. And operators are standing by. I'm the operator.
That's great. No, that's great. And we'll have your contact information in the show notes and everything else. And for anybody that's been following along with the Get Seen Get Sold blog this week, RVS is in our blog several times, and there's links in there to reach out to them and contact them. Again, Tony, it's a pleasure talking to you. I've talked to you offline, and you're a great guy to talk to. You're upstanding and everything else. I try to fair myself as a good judge of character, and you're the real deal. And keep up the good work. And I'm glad you're helping your community, and the safety work that you do. It's great. So with
Thank you.
that, folks, we're going to wrap it up. I want to say thank you again to everybody. This is going to be one of the first of many new podcasts coming out on the Get Seen Get Sold podcast, part 2.0, and a new addition to our YouTube channel. And our very first guest, Tony. And we'll be bringing Tony back in somewhere down the road just to talk about the progress and where things are. Everybody, I'm Mike Rady with the Get Seen Get Sold team. Don't forget, Get Seen Get Sold.